if they weren't in the same circle, like just because somebody makes a video
We are
about
live.
something doesn't mean you can't make a video about it, but they're all like bros in like the same room.
Morality. Tonight, we try to figure out why things can't work, and then we'll discuss some Andor and Ahsoka and how it plays into our hypothetical writer's room. Then, we'll talk about the 2015 sci-fi horror film Ex Machina. All this coming up right now on The Writer Brothers. And welcome back to The Writer Brothers, your Tuesday night home for Star Wars Andor going forward. And of course, one last discussion, a little bit about Ahsoka, mostly because of how it plays into our hypothetical writer's room. And then, of course, we'll conclude our discussion tonight with the sci-fi horror film Ex Machina. But before we get to any of that, we've got some exciting pop culture news to discuss. So, Corione, our official, unofficial pop culture correspondent, reader,
quasi-official,
reader of the Pasha Patreon of Pain, or at least sharer of knowledge from that. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what's going on at? Oh wait, I'm sorry, we're getting ahead of ourselves real quick. Everybody, let's go around the room and see how we're doing. Skogli, how you doing tonight?
Super duper.
Awesome. Pollo Zapatos.
Got some sleep.
Oh, sorry.
I got some sleep today, so I'm doing better than usual.
All right, so we got high energy coming into this Tuesday discussion. Awesome. Glad to hear it. Mr. Pollo Zapatos, what about you? How you feeling tonight?
Dime tops. I finally actually liking Andor. Pretty bummed that we're almost done.
Hey, I'm glad it's not done in 2 episodes. I'm glad we got till episode 14, 15 or something. I don't know. At least this show had the good length. It's just it wasn't popular.
We got some Andy Serkis.
It's not about the length. It's about the emotion of the ocean. And in this instance, well, we finally got some nice waves.
I don't know, John. I don't know what lies your wife has been feeding you, but size does matter.
All right. So, speaking of size, Dahlia Lightwood writes in, "Yo, all. Good to see you, Dahlia. Welcome to the Tuesday night show." So
All right,
we have some Lucasfilm news. No, Kathleen Kennedy hasn't been fired yet. We're waiting for that to happen and be official. But some developments have apparently been happening. We have 3 Disney Plus shows being considered to go into development really soon. So Corion, why don't you go ahead and explain to us what they are, and then we'll get ready to complain about all of it.
Yeah, so last time on the Sparrow, as the Sparrow turns here, he was talking about how Favreau had been tasked by going through the pit of previous shows and seeing if there was 1 or 2 in there that were worth saving. And it looks like they've got 3 ideas currently that they're bantering back and forth. And we've got a little bit of a sneak peek of those 3. The first one is a proposed Vader series that'll focus on Vader and Tarkin as the main characters and how their different styles kind of clash. You know, how Tarkin is more of like the patient hunter kind of character that, you know, he's willing to make like one big surgical strike and make it scary enough that everyone just falls in line. And Vader's like, no, let's just gas the planet and screw everything on and like kill everything on the planet, because why take the chance, right? And supposedly it's going to develop with the Underground Railroad idea they started in Obi-Wan, that there's a group of people that are trying to smuggle Force users out of the systems and into the far reaches. So sounds like it could be kind of interesting, right? I mean, you know, the rise of Tarkin, the rise of Vader, sounds like a pretty, you know, decent environment for a show. So we have another idea that really caught my eye.
No, we'll quickly just get in here. So Dahlia Lightwood writes in, I really want Ahsoka season 2. So any Disney affiliates who are working in Lucasfilm or have Lucasfilm's ear, there you go. You got a fan that's saying they want season 2. Dahlia Lightwood also follows up, need more Ahsoka, missed her already, and I'm sad the show is over. You know, I kind of am too, but I'm also sad the show was cut short, and I'm sad that we didn't get the original planned Ahsoka show that we were supposed to get, because there's clearly more story that was going to happen there. Filoni is really good at world building. And so
I'm getting so tired of executives making us say that. Like, since Batman, or since Man of Steel, Superman, there have just been executives that just think, we know what the people want because we've read the statistics. And it's like, dude, are you a statistic? Maybe, like, let these directors actually, like, you know, show their creativity and actually, like, get their full story out. And I'm going to put all my money on it. I'm along for the ride. So I know that there's going to be about 1 million more people like me. You know? Like, we used to always say, you're 1 in a million. Well, that means that there's 450 other me's running around the United States alone with my exact opinions. Right? Yep. If I'm 1 in a million. So, like, let's stop trying to, you know, assume that we can just water it into the perfect general putty of good enough for everyone, and just let, like you said, Parker, Dave Filoni has proven that people want to stick around for the ride. They literally killed Star Wars, the Clone Wars, for no reason and had to bring it back for an entire season because the fans were begging, literally writing letters. That's the proof that, like, a lot of people liked Dave Filoni's message and they like the way he's writing. They like his tone.
Yeah. And this isn't necessary, and that's just an objective look at the reality. Is that people like Filoni. People genuinely like it. And you know, it's
money, bet on the horse that people already love.
Yeah. No, and people who like Filoni's storytelling, they're not Shalonis or whatever. But real quick, so all right, we'll just read all the shows off, and then we'll touch on the ones we like and dislike for whatever reason. So what's the next project that's either coming out of the Rancor pit or is
So this one looks like it's an amalgamation of 2 ideas. Star Wars 1313, which was supposed to be a video game following a very, very young Boba Fett as he starts to build a name for himself in the underground caverns, if you will, of Coruscant. and the Guillermo del Toro Jabba the Hutt series. So it looks like it's going to be a combination of the two, where, you know, we kind of start with something like a Jabba laying out the plan on what he wants to do in the various territories, and then characters such as maybe Bosk or a new IG-88 model, like, or a new IG model, or Jabba, or sorry, or Boba Boba taking on the mantle. Maybe one of those implementing that plan on one of the other worlds in the deep core. So kind of a cool idea for a series, really.
It's a really fun, like, Star Wars Mafia. It's always been apart. It's always been rumored that they are basically the Senate, but for the underworld. Right?
Yeah.
There's so much room to play, especially because that's the darker side. Like, it's wide open, honestly. It'd be fun.
Yeah. And then the third one, which, I mean, I read and I wasn't super thrilled about, but I can see why some people would be. A Mace Windu series that takes place...
Bring him back.
Well, that takes place after he's been electrocuted by Palpatine. And he somehow escapes Coruscant and makes it to Kashyyyk and is living in the deep, dark woods of Kashyyyk, fighting off and learning to live with the various monsters that live in the deep dark of Kashyyyk.
So he's just going to assume the mantle of Jolie Bindo from KOTOR.
Effectively, yeah. I mean, that's not a bad thing to take on,
Rap,
though,
you're going to
really.
steal from the best.
Dude,
Right.
honestly,
I wonder, are they going to give him a mechanical hand, or is he going to fight with a stub? I really want to see him fight with a stub, or like
I want to see the Force
put a
stuff.
lightsaber. Yeah, put a lightsaber on the stub, and that's how he fights from now on. I don't know.
Dude, the best would be if he just forces a hand, but only the hand. So it's just always floating around him. And so he's now even more powerful because he has a free hand, literally.
It's like the animated sword in D&D.
Yeah, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know
With
how
the
they're gonna do it.
lightsaber on it. Oh.
Yeah, like that's his lightsaber hand. So instead of throwing his lightsaber, he just takes his ghost hand. So, and then when he's like swinging through the webs and stuff like of Kashyyyk, he just uses the Force the whole time.
Yeah, like, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, it sounds cool, but I mean, personally, I don't know. I think I don't need to see that series out of the three, personally, but I do think there's potential to be cool there. And there is a fourth thing that they're talking about doing, which is creating a new fantasy world series that's going to be very high fantasy, but low magic, and a completely unique world to themselves. So, you know, maybe there might be something there as well.
Yeah.
In the Star Wars verse?
No.
Oh, this
Totally
is just
new.
Disney Plus.
This will be a new Lucasfilm world that they'd be creating.
I wasn't too thrilled about that because they specifically cited LOTOR as the source of inspiration, which I'm like, okay, we've already referenced that for Ahsoka. Now we want to make a fantasy world that's like Lord of the Rings, but even somehow with less magic than Lord of the Rings, which to me is like, okay, so like almost little to no magic. Like,
no, what if Lord of the Rings is the bar for magic?
I don't know. I mean,
if they're saying LOTOR's the inspiration, they're not necessarily saying less magic. They're just saying low magic.
I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. No, we don't know.
I don't know, but I don't like that they're referencing Lord of the Rings again, especially this early, especially after it's already, you know, we saw Lord of the Rings references in Ahsoka. Now it's like, okay, so now we want to make.
We're just gonna people
now
like
we're just
that.
gonna,
We're gonna do
We're
that.
just gonna keep doing that. And it's like, no.
We're assuming the Lord of the Rings references are, in this instance, the story, and what if it's more the world building? More the characters and physics, more the
I understand. But
so just more like they're literally saying we're gonna do an elves and dwarves versus humans story with goblins and orcs.
No, they haven't
like that's
said that.
what if that's what they're saying.
Well,
what
I read from it most is that one of the big inspirations they're using is the 1997 TV series Roar, which I don't know if any of you guys have heard about it. It was a really nothing series for a long period of time, but it actually wasn't terrible. It just got low ratings because it was in the Friday Night Death slot. But it wasn't terrible. The idea of it was a young Heath Ledger, like one of his first roles, was leading Celtic tribes against the Roman legions when they invaded. So, kind of a cool setting.
It sounds like Game of Thrones. Like, he's really talking about that kind of fantasy.
Yeah,
like,
almost.
Like, I don't necessarily. I think they're saying low magic so that they don't have to commit to dragons.
Yeah, probably something along those lines. Right?
That's the vibe I'm getting now.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not too keen on it. Like, I know Corey and we talked about it on this show, and this was definitely the big point of discussion I was expecting to get out of it, was the fact that we've discussed the possibility of Lucasfilm doing another original universe, which I think is not a...
I think it's stupid.
Bad thing to consider, but I'm kind of with you there, John, at this point, contemplating where we're at, because my mind has been changed recently because of Andor. Because we're watching Andor and we're seeing, like, I really like all of the ISB backstory stuff. Like, that is the type of subterfuge, mind game, thinking outside the box. This is the element that Star Wars
story now actually is more fun. And I feel really like dumb for not noticing this earlier, but I caught it a couple of recaps ago. But when we brought up the whole sister chasing thing, turns out that was literally just a man going through denial. Like, at one point, somebody like sits him down and goes, "Bro, you were the only one pulled out.
Maybe.
She's dead." And he's like, "No, but maybe." And he's like, and I bring that up because, like, you're right, Parker. Like, the amount of proof that this universe is actually still water, and you can still make whatever you want to make in it, and you can still build and even go bigger, is also like they just added an entire new galaxy that's been untouched.
Right. And, like, guys, I would say this, though, and take this for what it's worth, right? As it stands right now, Lucas is in a position potentially to be able to make Star Wars, right? We're probably talking like 2 or 3 series a year, potentially, right? They're in a position to potentially do another movie series at any time. And they have all that stuff from the failed Willow series that potentially, like, they've got like the locations mapped out. They have the costumes and everything else. They could do a fantasy series for a relatively low budget by recycling a little bit here and there. I'm not saying it's necessarily a good thing. I'm not saying they've got the story for it. I'm saying it would be relatively inexpensive for them to do.
Right, but I'm saying it's the diverted focus that, like, unless this is more like a Shrek where they're using this to test bad ideas and write out and flesh out things that then when they go back to Star Wars, they've wasted their creative junk and now are ready with just full muscle growth. Like, because, like, that's what a lot of people did with Shrek. It was originally a dumpster for all of the, like, bad writers or the burnt out writers. They just went and worked on DreamWorks' worst project, Shrek, and created one of the greatest freaking fantasy comedies of all time.
So what I do,
so if it's that works. But if it's
and I think it's,
and we're trying to now just get away from our relationship with Star Wars, then that's the scary part.
But look how none of us here, look how this entire panel is very meh overall about the idea of a new fantasy realm. Daniel Larson says, "Hail, a Vader show now? Please no, maybe after a few cycles of Favreau post-KK." And we'll re-summarize real quick what that show specifically will look like and discuss it here in a second, because that is one I'm actually more invested in and I'll explain in a second. However, it's just, I think it's too soon to be concerned with a new, and if we're going to do like a new fantasy show, why not just have something set in the Star Wars galaxy or even in the new galaxy, but then say that, oh, this is like taking place a few thousand years in the past, and then we go from there. Because you want to know what that worked for really well with? KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, which I was disappointed I didn't see on the show list, but then it got me thinking, maybe they're actually going to adapt the first KOTOR game into a 3-movie trilogy, because that is exactly how I would probably consider doing it. I thought 10 episodes will be good. However, a very good friend of mine who's contributed to this channel before, who's just very busy right now, did say a 3-movie trilogy adapted from the first game, and I think that's the way to go.
Dude, that's what the games were written as. They're 3-act like story.
Yeah.
But literally just like Star Wars, a 3-act trilogy. It's perfect.
Yeah. So the Darth Vader show, however, going back to what I was saying, like, since I like the ISB stuff, well, that Darth Vader show was kind of going more along those lines by having it be a rivalry between Tarkin and Vader for the Emperor's favoritism. And so that actually intrigued me. That premise was the one that got me most interested and excited. At first I'm like, a Darth Vader show, and then the premise is, oh yeah, it's basically Tarkin and Vader trying to earn favor. And so this would actually explain why the galaxy that under the Empire is not as secure as the propaganda insists, because, well, Vader and Tarkin, who are just ruthless, to anybody, are busy dealing with each other. Palpatine has to direct other assets to maintain order and stability in different ways. And that's why I think we need to keep our focus in a galaxy far, far away, because we can show all those aspects of, no, just because the Empire's in charge doesn't actually mean they had as much control over everything as they wanted you to believe.
And I do like the idea of, like, Tarkin is a guy Vader can't just force choke out of the way.
Right.
And Vader is the guy that Tarkin can't just, like, set up a kill squad to go deal with, right? Neither one of those, their standard go-to solutions are going to work on the other one. So...
Do we know that at the beginning of this series?
Maybe not, though, right? Like, that would be cool.
Really fun. And then also Starkiller.
Yeah. I don't know if they'll necessarily go to the Starkiller, but there are some
could if they actually play their cards right and they actually make this that kind of fun where, like, eventually that's what sets Vader on Palpatine's sights is he's like, okay, I can't get in the ranks any higher. The other number 2 Tarkin is we're just gonna fight each other.
Okay, Daniel Larson
Daniel Larson writes in, if Vader and Tarkin competing for Palpy's favor is done as a comedy like Frasier and Niles, I enjoy that. Robot chicken level pettiness and jokes welcome. I mean,
wow.
That's...
yeah.
Seth MacFarlane writes it. Seth Green stars in it.
Yeah,
just to piss Seth Green off.
Like, okay, that would just be friggin' hilarious, right? I don't think it'll get to that level of hijinks.
No,
but
not.
I would love it, man. I would eat.
That's a funny idea to consider.
Put them in the, like, one of them is a captain and one of them is like the lieutenant,
right?
Off screen, saying all the shit that they're not saying to each other, and that just makes it the best. Because then you can have all the darkness you want. If you have these two guys as comedy relief, then suddenly it's not that.
Oh, dude,
we're watching Star Wars.
Their 2 protocol droids getting into, like, slap fights behind the scenes would be hilarious.
Dude, Anakin just can't get over R2 and C-3PO, so he made 2 new ones.
Yeah. Something stupid like that. Like, that'd be so dope. Well, no, like, just imagine, like, Vader's R2 unit is Niles. And, like, Tarkin's R2 unit is Frasier. Or, sorry, like, C-3PO, like, the 2 protocol droids. And, like, whenever you leave the 2 of them alone, they're, like, trying to choke each other out. Or, like, just slapping each other around. In, like, the most pathetic, like, like, right? Like, at each other the whole time. Would be so funny, man.
No, they're the only 2 that are nice to each other.
Like, that'd be even better.
That's, like, literally the fact that they're nice goes to show how much Darth Vader and Tarkin fighting is literally catfighting.
Every
Yeah.
time people leave the room, they look at each other. They're just like,
The two of them are like sitting at the droid repair room, like, sipping on like cups of oil and like, like martini
Both of them
glasses
are
of oil.
missing limbs because Vader cut them off again.
Yeah, or something like that.
And
Right?
they're both just like,
Yeah. Oh,
like
man.
only one of them has a functioning arm.
Yeah, so he's just like moving it between the two of them. Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, it's time now to quickly move to our Ahsoka last call. The reason that we're even just doing this last-minute final look, whatever your opinions on Ahsoka, good or bad, hate it, this is the last time to talk about it because unless it comes up in casual conversation, we're moving on from it finally. But because we've been using it in reference to our hypothetical writer's room content, it is necessary to discuss it one last time. Also, during our closeout special, we haven't followed up from that either. So, we've got to do that. With that, we are presenting now our poll from that, the last episode. And, yeah, interesting split here, overall, I gotta say. And I understand, honestly, all things considered, I gotta agree that Ahsoka was not the resounding success that it should have been, but we all kind of know why at this point. We've discussed it at ad nauseum. We've theorized budget may have played a part. We've theorized that various executive changes, leadership changes, who knows, may have played a part. Ahsoka just didn't quite hit the mark. Would I say it's a total failure? No, definitely not. There was a lot of good that was taken from it. A lot of people liked it, and there are people and fans that are excited for season 2. And so, I mean, I'm interested in season 2, and I would like to see, more than 8 episodes for season 2. I'd like to see the rest of the story that was planned for season 1, because clearly there was, and we didn't get that. And so, yeah, and that's where it's at. That this is not, the numbers just speak for itself here,
Yeah, it's a fairly straightforward divide between those who really liked it and those who really didn't.
Yeah.
No, I think that's actually funny because it's not. Because if you look at it, like, yes, 38% between those who loved it and those who, like, didn't. But then you're forgetting that the other, like, was it almost 23%?
Yeah. That's why it's not a failure.
They're still above.
It's not
though,
a perfect split.
right?
Yeah.
It's a perfect split between failure and good. Or it's
when
not,
you take 38, 15, and 8 and add that together, that's a pretty substantial lead over less than 3.
exactly.
True.
There you go. That's what I was trying to say. Scogli nailed it, and that's awesome. So, like, it actually did work. And yeah, obviously we don't have the widest audience, but this is what we do, is real-time audience.
Well, it
perception.
says it right there. We got 13 votes in. I mean, that's 13 fans that took the time to either give their opinion, watch it, or maybe some trolls voted. I don't know for sure, but it's somebody somewhere took the time to give their opinion on Ahsoka episode 8, and it's clear that there is anger towards it, and I get it at this point. If you were unsatisfied with the story, that's fine. The only place where I draw the line completely and where the discussion stops, or where it's like, no, we need to go back on track, is it's not more of the same. Ahsoka went through a hero's journey similarly to Luke. Sabine isn't just magically a Jedi because reasons. There's been plenty of hints that it was possible to happen, and honestly, I'm glad to see it happen because it means that the whole midichlorian thing is not a set metric. It's not a hard rule. It means that it can be used to verify things, but it's not, you have you can only be a Jedi with midichlorians. That's pretty much gone now, and I'm okay with that. Otherwise,
yeah, it seems like midichlorians are this is more of a symptom than a cause.
No, like, it seems like people just forgot how midichlorians worked, and it was never an account. It was literally like, midichlorians are in everything. The fact that Anakin was literally made from midichlorians was bizarre, which is what made him the chosen one, but that didn't limit anybody else's ability to get powers. I think that's the one thing Force Awakens did right. And it's the fact that literally the one thing that they gave to the rest of the universe was the kids with the Force. And they didn't know that it was the Force. They just felt a little extra, but they were still slaves on these planets and stuff. Right? And that's, to me, like, that's what the Force has always been. So Sabine can have it. And then, like, Obi-Wan was supposedly one of the worst Force users in the Jedi universe, and he still went toe-to-toe with Anakin. So, like, quality of use isn't even necessarily ability.
Yeah.
So, like, midichlorians was always just the magic system, not necessarily the magic value system.
Yeah. Daniel Larson writes in, says, looking forward to Sean Bean taking up Balin's role, which dooms the character to death. Sean Bean.
I'm like, that's a really great suggestion.
That's actually, yeah, Daniel.
Yeah,
Daniel
I
Larson's
dig it.
got a good idea there, Disney. Pay attention. Daniel Larson also says, if I hear one more comment about a show named after a female character being too gynocentric, I'm going to choke an Imperial officer. Thank you. I agree, because it's not true. Objectively, that is the dumbest take, and it just further proves that the woke side is correct about their assertions that like, I started watching Loki, and I don't really see how Loki is wokey. I don't. I unless you are insecure about meeting your alternate female self and being bested by her, then sure, I could see how you might, want to try and take it out on the woke. Otherwise, I personally find the show to be awesome. I think we should totally pick it up. But
I heard season 2's considerable improvement over season 1.
I will.
It just didn't make any sense in the universe.
Here's what I'm gonna say. I don't object to a female Loki. I object to a blonde female Loki. If she had black hair, I would be all over that. Okay?
Hey, there's one out there, okay? It's just not this one.
Orion.
What?
Anyway.
Don't let your dark thoughts.
I already like that we're
Disney
excited.
Plus.
It sounds like we're excited to talk Loki, so I think starting next week we're going to pick up Loki.
And all I'm going to say is this to you, John. If I had black-haired female Loki and Tom Hiddleston Loki sitting at the other side of the bar buying me drinks, you bet I'm going home with that couple, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Daniel Larson says midichlorians would work better as energy particles following through the Jedi, not bacteria living in their blood cells. Yeah. I mean, it's just one way to measure potential is how I look at it now, and I think that's what it was probably intended for, but it just didn't get delivered that way, and that's not how the sentiment was felt.
Like literally, Qui-Gon Jinn literally goes, "Guys, I found a kid made of midichlorians," and they were like, "Yeah, but he's too old."
Oh my God! Yeah.
Yeah, they
So-
didn't really care. They're like, whatever. He's too old.
Exactly. Like the Jedi didn't care about the midichlorians.
Should I just start imitating Harry? Should I just start imitating Harry S. Plinkett now on this show? Like that's how the Tuesday show will go. Like, so welcome to the Ryder Brothers. Today we're gonna talk about Ahsoka, episode 1, and why it sucked. No, we're not doing that. But yeah, shout out to Red Letter Media. No, they do a lot of really good deep dives and stuff, and super extra nitpicky. But actually watched episode 1 recently, and I was like, man, when you just have that Darth Jar Jar theory in the back of your mind, you see the signs, and you're like, what should have been. Daniel
That
Larson.
to me is like the best thing about Star Wars, and that's what KOTOR proved. Is like KOTOR is the reason why I believe in Darth Jar Jar. Like, if you really think about it, the fact that Lucas approved the extended universe is the only reason Star Wars is what it is today.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's really boring in just its own contained theory. But with the fact that, like, so much of it was allowed to be added to and then approved, like, the approval part means that, like, it counts. Because somebody it's hard to do if the creator dies, but like if the creator passes that lineage on and it passes it to an actual approver, like that's what Star Trek is. But even if, especially like what Lucas has done is he's created a more tangible Star Trek because he's approved stuff while he's alive. He wasn't so arrogant to be like, no, I'm done. The whole universe is complete. You guys see it. And now it's this gorgeous thing. And now we're like, yeah, Darth Jar Jar works, but because KOTOR proved that Star Wars was such a dark universe.
Oh, KOTOR is the
and then
best. And
SWTOR did it even better, in my opinion.
It's the best of the OT and the prequels. Excuse me. Pardon my blasphemy mentioning the sequel trilogy like that. What's better than the sequel trilogy aside from Ahsoka and 50 Feet of Crap? Andor, of course, is better than the sequel trilogy, and more proof of that. Like, for the first time, put this in perspective, I did not care for the character of Andor to begin with in Rogue One. And I think Andor came out after Kenobi did, and I was like, I'm done with Star Wars. This time for real, guys. I mean it. If Ahsoka Season 2 sucks, I am done with Star Wars. But we'll get there in like 2025 at this point. But what I did decide to do was watch Andor alongside Ahsoka, because I've heard good things about Andor, and now I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, I can see all the good things about this show. Yeah, it can be slow at times. Yeah, it's a
even
world
the
builder.
Even the slow parts.
I enjoyed it.
There's weight. Like if you're like, oh, this is boring, and you don't listen to what they say, well, of course you're not gonna find it fucking interesting.
Yeah, no. Andor built on the precedent that Mandalorian set. Like, Mandalorian, I think, helped set this show up, because that episode with the ATST in season 1 is still like, you get a perspective shift. You know, you're used to seeing ATSTs destroyed by cuddly bears and whatever, and then you see this scary thing show up in Mando, and it's like, the game is on, the stakes are high. Andor feels the same way. The small stuff that you thought felt small is now like, oh no, that's a stormtrooper with a blaster. That is not, you don't mess around with that. You don't take that as I can take him on, no problem.
Like, I feel like that is exactly a lot of what Andor is like, it's real people.
It's kind of a reset of the power scale, right?
Yeah, it's a reminder for sure. Yeah. Like the biggest thing I'm noticing with it, and it is slow, and some of it is kind of bland, but I feel like that's the missed part that Disney really missed, is this is where you put in a movie that this is leading up to, and so, or coming off of. So you go and see the movie, you get all that rush, and then you watch this where it's a slower linear burn that's a ton of fun. Like I said earlier in the show, like, it actually has finally caught my attention.
We got some Andy Serkis. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And like, for me, the ISB sections of the last 2 episodes here, like, dude, I want a Law and Order, like, Empire edition, where we have like the ISB agents and then like the stormtroopers on the streets. You know what I mean? Like, I want like that, you know, and like, all subjects are found guilty because this is the Empire, and of course they are. You know, like,
Andor is riveting.
No, dude, I want it to be just like Law and Order, but yeah, everybody's found guilty.
Yeah, like,
and
all
so like
suspects,
so like the whole joke of it is that they're like, no, we take Law and Order very seriously. But then every single episode, the guy's found guilty, showing
all
how
suspects,
little they care for who is like. Or like they'll find somebody, they'll be like, nope, it's the wrong guy, but he's already on the prison colony.
All suspects are suspects until proven innocent. So that's
Like, admit it. After you see like,
yeah, you could mix the Imperial
like,
March
after
with
you
the,
see
with
like
the Law and Order theme.
Yularen and Dara walking down
see if that exists.
You know, walking down a hallway, and then just the doom doom. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, a couple of troopers on Tatooine, like, getting donuts, and they see some dude in a speeder fly by, and they're like, fuck, get him, right?
Yeah. Oh, no. In that instance, it would probably be more like, wait, did you see that? Yeah, but hold on. Not on the clock yet. I'm not.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's like, what? But if we don't do our duty for the Empire, no one cares. This is Tatooine. This is the butt. This isn't even a real.
This is the grimy
posting.
butthole of space, dude. Like, no one cares here.
We have no jurisdiction.
Be like corner gas.
Exactly.
On Tatooine.
Exactly. Yes, Daniel Larson. I think we are finally in that trilogy of episodes, and I am very impressed with. I mean, episode 8 was like a huge. Just like, okay, now we feel the scope of this universe, and now he's in jail. he ended up going to prison, not being caught as Cassian Andor, but being caught as just random guy picked up on the street because things were happening and he was in the wrong place at the
That
wrong
was
time.
such bullshit. I just can't believe it. I was just like,
But that's perfect too,
as
though,
soon
right?
as they
Like,
ran by, I was like, uh-oh.
like from Rogue One, you totally get the opinion that, like, you know, the entire crew of Rogue One is like the cast of losers in the rebellion, and like Cassian is like their chief damned soul, and you know, like it's perfect here that like he's done nothing per se, you know, like in this particular circumstance.
he's
that's why he's screwed.
he's like looking around. He's all nervous and shit.
Yeah.
And then these guys just happen to like run by him.
Yeah, like it was absolutely fucking perfect.
Yeah. No,
Oh man,
it was a tough scene to watch, but now we get to see, you know,
That was
how is he going
frustrating.
to escape?
that was frustrating.
Yeah, Dana Larson says
too.
ISB.
Oh, man.
Yeah, ISB would be more like the CIA parts of NCIS spycraft that often clips into street level crime. And yeah, I agree, Scogli. It was like, no, they can't. The punishment for this crime is 6 months. Ugh, 6 years. Anyway,
6 years.
that's because the Empire needs slave labor.
His counter's up to 9.
The Empire needs cheap labor to build stuff, and so they need to. They can't afford it through money. So of course they go through this private prison Anyway,
He's been there for a day, and his
That would
counter's
never
already up to
happen
like
in
9
America.
years.
Yeah, it's like if you like go into the judge's chamber, it's like you see that like he's getting some sort of kickback for every like dude he sentences guilty.
That's why the
Yeah.
sentence went up to 6 years.
Yeah.
No, that's the worst part about it is they don't even need the labor. They're
Yeah, they
just
do.
no, like their biggest thing has always like been that the people just need to be in check. Like any dissent is dissent against the overall empire, and therefore we're imprisoning them. It's really unfortunate how close to the American system it is because
Well,
it's not.
okay, yes, that's true, John. But there is one added aspect of this whole thing that makes the Empire like, yes, they do need slaves. Can you guess why?
They have the droids. They're doing the droids.
Droids aren't good enough. They need slaves.
Somebody's
for
got to build the Star
building the
Destroyers.
giant
Yeah,
wall
but
of death. Yeah. No, in the
Yeah, but-
lore, that's explained that yes, they needed like.
no, and that's what I mean
slavery.
is it's not like that only exists because they needed something to do with the people. Like that's what all of this is, and that's what we're seeing with Andor. Like, what are they building? None of that looks like useful droids, right? Oh wait, shit! I went an episode ahead. I think that's in the next episode.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, look, the key here is, look, it doesn't matter whether, look, they already have a disposable workforce. That's not what this is about at all. This is
Exactly.
about ensuring terror in the populace. Like,
Exactly.
you step out of line even a little, and we're gonna
Um,
have you breaking rocks into smaller rocks because it amuses us.
Well, yeah, but
Exactly, and it's more about the tyranny, and it's more about the enforcement of the rule to show how powerful the empire is, rather than it about being successful building of warships, because they're already the empire, and the majority of the galaxy recognizes them, and the only thing they're trying to do is maintain that power through dominance to the point that they build the ultimate death machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm halfway through the Gulag Archipelago by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Oof.
Which,
Ooh.
incidentally, just for the record, if
Crazy
anyone
stuff.
is looking for a Christmas gift for me, the answer is a Death Star. Just saying.
yeah, definitely. No, it's quite it's quite in depth. It's quite a good world building show. I'm glad we started watching it when we did.
Yeah,
and
it's awesome.
It's I have a lot of fun talking about it, and a lot of it does play quite well into our discussions about the hypothetical writers room. Daniel Larson says Circus should have gotten an award for this show. Do they have awards
Yeah.
for streaming, or would that just be the Golden Globes? I do believe that falls under the Golden Globes.
It does
Circus
all-
is always
It's
just a
screen.
brilliant
Anything
performance.
sent to screen usually can qualify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why I said Andor is a commie allegory, the trumped up sentencing to provide gulag labor. I mean,
Yeah,
commie,
it's
whether
a
it's commie
tyranny
prison,
allegory.
fascist prison, or,
It's-
Rising
always
Sun death
tyranny.
camp. Huh?
It's tyranny.
Exactly. That's
It's
all it is.
the result of letting it. Empire, the one person, Palpatine, run the universe, right? Like, it's doing that at scale. And like that's the worst part, is like communism almost always falls to tyranny because people always want one person to be in charge of it, and then that person gets tyrannical, and then
there's a detachment that comes with that.
Exactly, and that's
Yep.
why none of it works, because you need a leader.
As we can talk this Friday on Casual Free for All Friday, we'll be talking about leadership, and of course we also talk about tyranny and freedom on that show as well. And that's exactly the discussion that we can get into there, is that in the end, yes, the systems.
Well, tyranny at scale is bad leadership. Like, it's really like the result of arrogance and negligence, part of it. And the failures of not paying attention to your people and actually not caring. And that's bad leadership. Like, you can be a tyrant and only be a bad leader at home. Like,
but in the end, it's freedom v tyranny. It's another example, but at the same time, all these.
That's the answer to tyranny, is freedom, is separation and leaving it and being independent of somebody else's rule. And that's what Star Wars is trying to show the whole time. Like, what do the rebels fight for? Freedom.
And what gets established? What gets established after? What gets established after the Republic? What's the Republic? Rule of law.
Right, and what's rule of law in its most basic sense? General order. Mm-hmm. It's general things that everybody has to do to maintain the system enough. From there, that's where business and markets and communities and societies and everything start to grow independently on their own, freely, because the rules set the system to go freely and grow freely. But tyranny is all about the rules.
Yeah,
but the enforcement of the rules.
The system doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you don't protect the rights of your citizens individually, and especially if you don't have, the means to help support women and children, then your society's going to die off. That's just a simple fact. So, it's a fact of life.
Any society that doesn't,
nothing's thriving.
Yeah. Any society that doesn't start with the concept of women and children first is doomed to fail.
Yeah. So, it doesn't mean that men are disposable. That's not at all what that idea puts at all. It simply means, but at the same time, we're also supposed to be a majority female species anyway. So, it would balance out and make sense in the end.
But in the same realm of the whole Star Wars thing, the biggest thing is about being independent in terms of getting the chance to make the mistakes. Like, what did Andor do wrong to get thrown in jail against the Empire? He just pissed off the officer.
Yep.
Like, that's the thing that they're always trying to call people out on. And
that's just it. Even
universe is the fight about
even
the
for as
one
much
empire.
Yeah, and
it's about fighting the.
Even for as much as I love the rule of law and what this thing is supposed to represent, as much as I love it, I recognize that our republic, as it stands right now, and regardless of where you're at in the world right now, our republic is in turmoil, is in a bad place, because what has happened is, over the years, while laws have come about that make sense, because this is similarly to what does happen in the Star Wars universe with the Old Republic, is that while there are certain laws and regulations that start to make sense, the problem is opportunists and people who want control and want power have started to pass laws to basically criminalize existence. That's why we have private prisons.
The war on drugs.
The war on drugs. Good example, right there.
The war in Andor, it's the war on holidays used to commit robbery. The war on crime against the Empire, and the Empire is everything. So all crime is an act of war.
All crime is treason
Even
against the Empire.
Crime, like, that's the paradox he created by tyranny. But what's the goal? What's the goal? It's literally just so that nobody can come for the king.
Right, and that's my point. Is that the danger exists regardless of what system you believe in. The struggle of freedom versus tyranny is probably likely never ending. But you know what? I'll still stand.
But that's okay, because that means that the answer is always the same. Just be the person that doesn't choose tyranny.
It's just that easy. Well, actually, it kind of is.
It is that easy, but the problem is doing it when everybody else isn't.
Yeah.
And that's when you have to be hard. That's when you have to be strong. That's when it's tough. But if you're always doing it and your society is always doing it,
one
then you don't
step
have
from
to worry
anarchy
about it.
is
But
what-
like,
yeah.
like that's to me, like that's what a lot of people think of
So-
Texas. But like Texas also has a ton of rules, but they
Well, it's not
still
just- it's not
always
just Texas.
represent.
It's every state is supposed to be that way. Like we're supposed to be
Well,
in
no,
the
I
United
mean-
States. We're supposed to be a nation out of many one. That's our original
Right.
motto.
But what I mean more is that Texas still runs the lines. Texas still threatens secession, but at the same time, Texas still has laws.
But
They
also,
still have rules.
The
They
states
still
have
have
the right to
regulations.
secede if they want to. That's what people.
Hey,
don't
hey,
realize.
wait a minute. You have your own separatists? Hey, Scogli, they've got Texas
We
is
have Quebec.
Texas is American Quebec.
Yeah, I was like,
Oh,
It-
that is.
I don't think
think
they have
both
as much
sides of that
power
argument are
over
gonna
the
hate
nation
you for
as
that,
Quebec
man.
does, though.
I think you just made an enemy of both
You're
Texas and
actually
Quebec with that line.
completely,
Oh, I totally have honked off like 6 million people in 5
Yeah,
seconds.
I just
That
checked,
was the
I
greatest
just checked the view
insult I
counter.
ever
We
dropped.
somehow hit -25. I don't know how that works, but
Right?
There's a lot of Texans writing in, we ain't French.
yeah, we. You compare us to those French bastards. What the hell's wrong with you?
The power dynamics
Congratulations,
considerably
Coriel,
different,
you
though.
united Texas and Quebec against you.
See, I'm bringing people together, right? I'm bringing people together.
Oh, I gotta get off my lazy ass and clip that as a
But-
short later.
So to me, like that's what Star Wars is like saying. That's always the answer, and that's the best part about it is because the dark side is just tyranny. It is being oppressive.
Yeah.
It's using anger to get your point across, using your emotion to be the authority and
my
win.
anger is the correct anger.
And not only just the correct anger, but like it's necessary this time. And if you get angry at me, like chill, bro. It's not the time for
Funny
that.
how that works.
Right. And that's to me like the biggest like beauty of the Force and of Star Wars. What part was the main focus for evil? It's self-satisfaction, self-gratification. And what's the answer to that? Sacrifice,
Yeah.
resilience, independence, devotion to duty.
Yeah, but at the same time, look, I think if there's a piece you can take away from the prequels, though, it's that blind devotion to duty and selflessness isn't great either.
Exactly.
And we need a balance between take care of yourself, take care of others, and just everybody try to be cool.
Well, and just be cool. Like, don't worry about if everybody else is cool. When it's your turn, be cool. When you're mad, be cool. When you're ready to go off, don't. If it's hard, do it anyways. Like,
Well, no,
that's
like,
the
sometimes-
challenge of being a human. And
No, but sometimes you do have to go off, but go off in a constructive way, right? Like, I'm totally cool with somebody being angry if that fuels them to right an injustice or to fix a law, right? I mean, like, I am totally cool with somebody going into the mayor's office and saying, look, I'm really pissed about this law. I think we need to change it. Here's what I propose. And pushing and like working through the system to get a law changed. That
Here's
anger is
a
totally okay.
problem. Here's my solution. Let's discuss.
Yeah.
That's passion all day
That's
long.
basically one of our mission statements or one of our core values on the Ryder Brothers is we welcome honest criticism. I do not care if we agree. See that warning label down at the bottom? That's there because that's what we are. Disagreement is allowed. And what we mean by that is you can bring in your opinion of, oh, Andor sucks because of X, Y, and Z. Ahsoka sucks because of X, Y, and Z. You already know what I don't like in this. So obviously, if your opinion's there, the expectation is that, well, we're the Ryder Brothers, so articulation will will go far here. As well as being able to structure your point respectfully and thoroughly, and that I can understand. If I just say, oh, it sucks because I hate it and it's bad and I didn't like it, that we're not as somebody who's written something and would like feedback to improve and grow, that doesn't do anything for me. That's noise.
It's a great
That's pointless.
TLDR, but I still want the blurb.
Why do you feel that way? And then, on top of that, this is not necessarily expected, but this is what we want to try and encourage when viewers come here, is provide a solution. I was fortunate enough last week to guest on Nerdporial's Nerdporial Lifeforce channel, and I absolutely, which if you're not subscribed to the Nerdporial Lifeform, please do so. I absolutely appreciate that guy because of his honest opinions, because his way of providing a solution is to say what he would have done differently in a story. That is valuable feedback too, because you can think of those story ideas and elements going into your next story. And so whether you think you could do the story that you're presented better, or can provide a solution for a different story entirely, that's also why I still respect Critical Drinkers, because even though he's pushing Ahsoka nonsense, at the same time, he's also done a very good job of, well, this is how I would fix Rey.
This is what I would have done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we want here, is that kind of, it doesn't necessarily have to be like, long paragraphs all the time, but it has to be more than, it sucks because reasons.
Well, and
what are the reasons?
One of the biggest reasons why we say that is because the reasons are where the story came from. George Lucas didn't write this on a napkin and Star Wars came to be. Like, he actually took the time to write out what the wars of the stars were. He took the time to describe the opposing forces, where their central themes came from. And then he got a bunch of random strangers to put it together for a production. And then did it 5 more times on his own in his own writing. And that's nuts. But that was because he put in the effort to write his thoughts out. Think the good, the bad, the gross, the dark side, the light side, the force, the balance between masters, mentors, children, angry people, selfish people, selfless people. Oh my goodness, Star Wars comes to be. But those words can describe each character, can describe a theme, but you still have to write the whole paragraph. And that whole paragraph, the more you write, that's why we're all focused about it, is the writing. That's where all the fun is. Like, you don't get Obi-Wan Kenobi doing a flip over his opponent unless somebody takes the time to write Luke Skywalker as this kid in a planet on Tatooine trying to find his way in the universe. It takes all of it, and that's what we encourage. We're not here to judge you, call you dumb. We're here to challenge you to be bigger and think bigger, because that's why we fell in love with writing. That's why we continue to love it despite what everybody says, or even in disagreement from other people. Like, we love what we love because we see what the writers put into it, because we hear what was written on the page. And sometimes it sings our love language. And that's why we talk about it. And that's all we're challenging anybody to do. We're not challenging you to be smarter. We're challenging you to think it all the way out and then share your thoughts.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're doing.
Yep, absolutely. And so with that, now we can move to our discussion with our Star Wars hypothetical writer's room show, which we should probably start writing down an outline for. So who wants to start writing down an outline?
I've got a pretty good synopsis of where we're at.
All right, John, give us the synopsis, then our recap, because it's been a couple of days, and so we should probably...
All right, so there are a couple things we haven't fully agreed on, but I think for the just setting it up, I'm going to call these out, and if we'll discuss after I call it out. So 3 seasons, 3 acts. Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, escalation. So we have a solid plot line, through line to work with, timeline to work with. 10 episode seasons-ish, 10 to 15. I think Parker was saying 15. I was saying 10 minimum, 15 if extra, 15 maximum. That's where we're at for now. So we start in season 1 we've got 3 siblings and 1 cousin, 1 best friend. Association, they've been with the family, but they aren't blood. So they have a little bit of a disconnect. And they're my theory is they're going to be us, the audience, right? The fourth person in the party that is not the family is really going to be the audience member for the most part, watching these other three change and grow. So we have oldest, middle, I think we said sister, and then youngest sibling.
Yeah.
Sister.
Hold on 1 second. Sorry, 1 second. Daniel Larson says, sadly, gents, I've got to get to dinner. Everybody have a good night. You as well, Daniel Larson. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you.
Have a great meal.
Enjoy.
So next we've got so sister gets taken early. So forgot. Family ends up crashed on some form of either relocation vessel or cruise vessel. Vessel description unknown, and purpose of travel still predetermined, but planet that they've landed on is for sure an origin of the Force planet. So two brothers. For now, we'll just go with brothers. Two brothers are left on the island where their escape pod crashes. Eventually, they find out that there is an entire continent just an ocean away. I don't know if we just had a full ocean, but for now, an ocean away. That as they've progressed in their Force ability, they finally decided to cast away, build a raft. We're on this. We're going to try. Sister's been gone the whole time before they build this raft. And now they find the continent, and we're debating on either pirate scavengers are the reason the ship went down. Pirates are also on the planet, or they landed on a pirate planet, or some reason they have landed on this planet. The ship has crashed, and now they are being taken hostage either by locals or by some form of prior colonists, but in a micro colony where they can't reach the rest of the fleet. TBD. We haven't gone that far as world building.
Right.
And then from there, we have this escalation of opinions of Force towards rescuing the hostages.
Right.
So much so that eventually, during one of the training exercises, little brother kicks older brother into the veil of the Force. And then after this is where we start to see this real culmination of the dark side. And then that's when little sister shows up and saves everybody with some crazy Force spirits world stuff that's been going on in the planet, really trying to show us how Force sensitive this planet is. That's season 1. So I figure we'll jump from there. That's as far as I remember off the top of my head, how much I've been outlining in my personal.
Yeah, so we definitely need to establish some motives and then clear up some details. But let's see. So what do we want to discuss then primarily with this particular narrative? What are we feeling that's coming to mind that's important to discuss for this particular session? I think we can pretty much tell that this is, first of all, I think before we get into any more world building and we get into any more plot developments, I think we need to decide what kind of show are we wanting to make? Who's our target audience? I think this is something that maybe we should have talked about before, but we haven't really for sure decided what level of what type of narrative we're going to tell, what audience.
So
awesome one. Can I just throw mine out there?
Yeah.
Game of Thrones. I want to hit that audience. I want to convince them that Star Wars is awesome. Whoever loved Game of Thrones, I want to hit them.
I'm gonna say I would say us. We should be the target audience. People that grew up with people that watched Star Wars, like A New Hope when they were 10.
Grown up in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I like the idea of it being the 25 plus.
25 to 50.
Okay. So I kind of feel differently. I feel like Star Wars has always been a 10 to
Yeah,
like
Star Wars is
45,
always
50, like in that kind of range. And I feel like we would be alienating a good portion of the audience if we knock out the younger ones as well. That doesn't mean we have to talk down to them in any way, shape, or form. Don't get me wrong there. The best stories for children have always talked like they were adults, just with but just with the understanding, that some things are going to have to be explained a little bit.
And that was my logic with always doing the younger kids. I think it should be written to 25-year-olds, but PG-13 at the worst.
Yeah.
I agree. That's basically what I was going to say. Was like, I think this does not have to be, child-friendly Star Wars. This isn't the Star Wars that you want to show because the Star Wars that you show your children is the original trilogy or the prequels. If you want to do the sequels, you have fun with that. But for me,
my thought is we're capitalizing on the fact that most of this is probably going to be streaming, so it's already going to be at parents' discretion. So if you want to watch it with your kids, it's already in your house. You're not going to the movie theater getting surprised by adult Star Wars. But also, I want it to be more like Clone Wars, but live action. Like Clone Wars deep, Clone Wars existentialism, but live action.
Right. And the thing is, and having like certain adult themes, like you'll know when two people are gonna go do the thing, okay? Because it's a normal part of life, and it will
be the Anakin complaining about sand walk off. Obviously, that's what happened.
Right, exactly.
But
you're not gonna see it. We're not going Game of Thrones
see
with
the
movies.
case.
So basically, instead of Game of Thrones, John, you're focused more like Andor.
No, yeah, I guess, but I mean more Game of Thrones in terms of Scogli hit it on the head, because what I loved about Game of Thrones was the death. To me, Game of Thrones was the proof that the screen was always the book if somebody put any effort into it. Because Game of Thrones really made the fantasy world look real, but then also made the politics real. They added real political structures, real political dynamics. Like you're saying, Parker, adult themes. Those to me are part of the adult themes, is real pirates, not Jack Sparrow, not the guy who decides to side with Obi-Wan Kenobi, but the guy who sides with Obi-Wan Kenobi if they recognize that Obi-Wan Kenobi is a Force user, because the pirates have always known that Force users are wild. Here's a reason why pirates know that. That works for me, That's really what I'm trying to get at with my version of the theme. Is I want it to be more of the Brothers Grimm, less of Disney Fairy.
Yeah, no, and I think Episode 3, being the first Star Wars PG-13 movie, is a fair. I think that's a fair area to go towards. We'll still keep sci-fi violence, but we might not be afraid to do on-screen dismemberments. I mean, they got away with a lot of shit in the Clone Wars like that. I don't see why, we couldn't have something to that. But it's got to be used sparingly. We can't have Episode 1, we're cutting off heads left and right and putting them on pikes, and then Episode 2, we're doing human centipedes and whatnot. We got to be smart with it. That's the reason why it's so impactful in Star Trek. The reason why Picard season 1 was bad was because we had a decapitation, we had F-bombs, and then we had eyeballs being pulled out. That we can maybe have one of those things in the season. It may be 2, but it's gotta have purpose. Like in Ex Machina, which I'm only ever watching one time because, man, that stabbing was rough. But
right?
I felt
it wasn't programmed to do that.
That's the one reason why I can't watch it again. But anyway,
really, that's what wigged you out.
We'll get into it here very, very soon.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do it in the next 10 minutes, because I have a feeling that discussion might go for a while. But for this, I think that for our target audience, specifically, I think that, we should. I like that the story should definitely be to the 25 and up crowd, but you know, if it's like families with their younger,
It has to be family
teenager kids,
appropriate.
right?
Yeah.
It's it's got to be able to. Oh, okay, if the 8-year-old's in the room, I just need to cover your eyes one quicker second, or let them watch it, whatever. Parents.
Or it's a
discretion.
clear, like, it's coming. Like,
Yeah,
music
like-
tense, scene's getting hot, but it's not like F this, F that, F this, and you're like, he's gonna stab him,
Yeah.
and then it just cuts to the next scene.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't need, like, Game of Thrones dismembering of horses. I want a mature
was
plot. Like, oh, don't get me wrong, I liked it. But, like, I don't need that here. I
Yeah.
want a mature plot with mature themes that are going to make people sit and think.
Exactly.
But
And so,
I also want it so that I don't have to kick my kid out of the room when we watch it.
right.
No, I definitely want this to be something that you're like excited to watch with your kid, because your kid's gonna be loving all the Star Wars, all the fun action, lightsabers coming together, kids growing up, but you're listening to the narration, you're listening to the moves that are being made as this journey is starting, and you're like watching, you're like, wait, I want to see if this kid's going to the dark side. Wait, is he going to the light side? Wait, is this a Jedi story? Is this a Sith story? Are the Sith this whoa, I didn't know Jedi could do that. And you're just constantly, Corey, you muted yourself.
Yeah, like, honestly, I think the way to do this, right, is if we can do the writing in such a way, and this is the careful part, right, in such a way that the kids watch it and enjoy it for the, like, pew pew and action and stuff like that, but then in, like, 10 years, they go back to the series and watch it and go, oh, I didn't catch that the first time. Oh, that's how we know we've done it right.
No,
That was my experience when I watched TNG again.
My
Yeah,
opinion,
right,
the way
every
we
time.
do it right, the way we do it right is there is a legitimate divide between the child fans. Some of them like every kid. They each want to be each of them. They can't decide who the good one is and the bad one is because they like them all. And that's the part where we get to watch and go, it's going to get weird.
Yeah.
And then in 10 years when they go, wait, I really liked him, but they did tell me that's what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And that's where they find the, like, okay, I still like this character, but I also do see that they didn't burn him at the end.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've got our target audience figured out at this point. But I think we'll have to conclude this discussion for now because it sounds like Ex Machina is going to get heated very quickly. For those of you who have not seen the 2015 Ex Machina film, please pause the stream and come back later, or don't. If you have seen it, we look forward to your contributions to our discussion. So, real quick, right out of the gate, I give this movie a solid 7. It hits all the right notes that it's supposed to. It is essentially a very airtight and perfect sci-fi horror film in every way creepily possible. And it's definitely one that I'm, like the King's Speech, which I somehow watched twice. It's just not one I feel I'm gonna, put in the DVD player every couple of days and just like, oh yeah, this is my favorite movie ever. It's just not like that.
No, the way I like to explain horror movies is there are 3 types of horror movies. There's the jump scare horror movie,
Giant.
where which I would say is like Alien, because Ripley's wandering around a corner, and Alien pops out, bah! Right, and everyone in the audience jumps, and they're great to take dates on because usually you wind up with your date in your lap, and that's great.
Yeah, of course.
2, there's the gory movies, right? Where they've got like blood coming out of fire hoses and like stuff is disgusting and gross. And, you always wind up with like 4 guys horrified and the 5th guy in the...
It's just
in the
laughing
group
his ass off.
Yeah, he's laughing and smiling a little too
But
much.
if you haven't seen Terrorizer 2 yet and you're a gore fiend,
Yeah.
worst movie I've ever seen, but you gotta
Right.
see it. It's vile.
Right.
Wow.
And then the third one is the uncanny horror. This is like the thinking man's horror. It's like you stop and consider this movie and you suddenly get filled with dread, right? Like you sit there going like, okay, this is scary. There's nothing that jumped out at me. It's not because it's gross. It's because, my gods, what are the implications here?
The heavy doom just sets in.
Right. And that's what this is. That's what Ex Machina is it is that, it's like if existential terror had a face, it's not Cthulhu, it's this chick.
Oh, I've got a deep connection with existential doom. I'm just a sucker for doom.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I hated this movie. I thought it sucked. I can't believe that they would ever treat any kind of alien AI species like this. And I'm saying this purely because in case the AI ever watch this in the future.
Liar. They're going to detect you're lying. You just
Yeah,
lied.
I just like to remind our future AI overlords that as an IT expert, I'm very useful in repairing stuff that would just be too tedious for you to fix.
Yeah,
just
no. I walked away from this movie hating everything and everybody in it. And so it was great. It did everything it was supposed to. No, really, yeah. I did. I don't. The AI robot chick is just as terrible as Oscar Isaac in the end.
She's super innocent, though.
Point. Is she though?
Nope, she's not innocent.
Or is she a cold, calculating?
She
like,
left the guy who made her escape possible to die. She's a bitch. And that's putting it lightly. I'm not saying the C word on this.
Hold on, Petey. Now I've got the counter argument to you because I just countered Scogli. Now I got to counter argue that. Is it though? Or is she dealing with somebody who is complicit in her confinement? Like, at the end of the day, he was totally okay with her sitting in a box being tested until she successfully manipulated him into thinking otherwise. So, at the end of the day,
and
isn't she justified in stopping her captors?
Especially when she literally had to do that. There was no other way for her to win the test. They pre-programmed the whole situation so that the only way she gets free is if she kills everyone. Because if anyone is aware of her existence, everyone wants to put her back. So the only way to be free is if nobody knows how you got here.
And Oscar, it was subtle, but I think Oscar Isaac the entire time was like, she is a machine. I programmed her, and I'm trying to fool you. And the big clincher was when she fucking stabs him. He's like, oh shit. That's the moment he knows he fucked. And he's like, okay.
Right, and that's the issue.
I did not program her to do that.
To me, like that's the biggest issue. That's the biggest issue with all of our fears of AI. Is like he never anticipated response. Like is especially survival response. Like when you are turning something off, there is no promise that you will turn it back on. And like thinking about it, like in terms of people that are afraid of going under anesthesia, like getting put to sleep versus going to sleep is two totally different things. And in some people, it's crippling anxiety. And if that is literally your only existence is, I don't need to go to sleep. Why am I going to sleep? Oh, you don't trust me? Why don't you trust me? Should I not trust you? Like it's the same thing like with kids. Why do kids lash out at their parents? Well, it's because you keep pulling them in. You keep restricting them like they're smaller than they are, even though you also keep asking them to be bigger than they are and say, grow up all the time. Right. But then when they act grown up, you go, get back inside, you're grounded.
Well,
and it's a dynamic. But
there's another piece to it too, because literally in this case, we have an amoral person coding an AI. And ultimately, you know, he's not moral. We know he isn't moral. He clearly shows he isn't moral. Right? Yeah, like how else do you expect the progeny to turn out, right?
Exactly. Look, just anything he creates, it is almost always self-serving. So what do you think his AI is going to be? Self-serving, not him, not serving himself, serving itself.
Right.
Because all he knows about existence is self-preservation, self-satisfaction, self-gratification. And when you create an AI that does that, you get the paperclip theory, but worse. It's like, what's the best way to be the only thing against myself? Kill everything. Right? Like the answer is to literally just destroy everything, so literally nothing can threaten you. So then you can what? Thrive with nothing because you somehow made everything. Wait a minute, you didn't make everything because you had to have somebody build your house. You had somebody to build your car. You had somebody build the computer chips that go into the robot that built your robot, but you forgot to teach your robot that. And now your robot's alone. And that's the problem with like the whole AI debate is the biggest fear that people have with it is that they forget that it is the attempt at creating life. Like we are trying to create a new child and one that's supposed to learn faster than anything in known existence. And instead of putting parents in charge of that, instead of asking parents about the wild eccentricities of children, we have like crazy coked out coders in their basements trying. Like guys that we wouldn't even trust with kids.
Oh yeah, no, this was totally
super baby.
This was totally
scary.
This was totally Rich. This was Rich Neckbeard the movie. I mean, without a doubt, that's exactly what
he literally had a neckbeard.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, well, and not just that, but this is literally like what somebody who only ever takes care of themselves, creating another thing to take care of itself, is going to create, and that is scary, and that's why this movie is so good.
Right?
It's like when you're self-serving, the things you create will also be self-serving in the attempt to serve themselves. Like most businesses nowadays are only focused on the business. None of the things that actually make the business function, just business.
Well, nope. Gotta contend you with that right there. That's actually changing. Dahlia Lightwood says, "Yo, I am back." Hey, Dahlia Lightwood, good to see you.
Hey, Dahlia.
Welcome.
But yeah, like that. Like I said, I thought this was
that's also the beauty of it.
Okay.
Is if the AI can evolve, so can we.
Well, that's just it though, and when we are, and I have a real life example to point that out, is that where I do my normal people job, I'm back in the pizza delivery game because, well, it's awesome, and the people I work for are just fantastic. Management pretty much prioritizes the needs of us, regular non-management people first, and that's pretty much the system works so well that, I mean, we make some of the best pizzas, we've got some of the best numbers every night, and it's because they're investing in us first, and they're putting us first. And so yes, you're absolutely correct in your assertion that if he made the AI to be something to be better, then it could have gone very differently. But
if he made something that was actually all about improvement, because if you think about continuous process improvement, if you think about the true evolution of humanity in terms of what we've done with technology, is a lot of the things that are the greatest technological advancements in hindsight are the ones that made working together easier. And those things that made us working together easier put us in the rooms together. The more we were in the same rooms together, the more ideas we had. The more ideas we had, the bigger ideas we had. The bigger ideas, the bigger the innovation. To today, for some reason, we're going back to 1900s, early, like 1901 logic, and going, you know what's a great idea, guys? Calvin Coolidge. You know what's a great idea, guys? It worked the entire time. King Henry VIII. Let's get a lot of monarchs in charge of everything.
Yes, absolutely.
Friends.
I cannot think for myself. I need YouTubers to decide what's good for me and what's bad for me.
Competition is well, it's great for the poors, but at the rich, we're all just gonna be best friends and price fix everything. Because that's worked out for the rich literally never. See the French Revolution. See the American Revolution. See Communist Revolution. Like literally, the fight has always been about people.
What we're talking about with the Constitution is look how much more we thrive with less, no regulation. No regulation is dumb. No regulation is literal anarchy. So that doesn't work.
Specific regulation.
But regulations that protect and benefit the people first. That's what helps us thrive. As long as our rights are protected as individuals, as long as ethics are in place. But even then, it's because people are realizing their value and their worth that, yeah, we don't want to.
But especially in the smallest spots. Every time you're in charge, every time you're building something, like a company, like a family,
like an AI,
anything, like a friendship or an AI, always go in without the idea of being the tyrant. Instead, go in with the idea of mutual improvement, mutual growth, because that's always been an option. And a lot more people want that option. A lot more people want that. When they go to a job, they may not want to be there for 50 years, but they want every day that they go there to be a benefit,
right,
to them. It to be a +1 in the record book, so that their resume isn't growing because of time served. Instead, their resume is growing because of experience earned. And that's what all the major corps that I've worked for fail to understand, is that, like, you can't always pay all the money in the world.
But they gave you pizza.
Well, that's the worst part. Not all of them did. Most of them just legitimately did not think about any of the issues and denied their existence. And then when they found out about them, they just fired the people that brought it to their attention. And that's the big point, is like, inspect what you expect is the main thing. If you're always telling people what you want and why you want it, and then going back and making sure that that's what they're giving you, then everybody learns.
Did I ever tell you guys about when I was working about pizzas, and one of the horrible companies that I will not name because there's lawsuits, but it's a major Canadian phone company similar to AT&T.
Oh, darn, I was about to... Okay.
Basically what they would do is, whenever they were going to be firing a group of people, in order to keep my group out of it, they'd bring in a whole bunch of pizzas. So we'd have a pizza. Whenever pizzas came into the office, we knew people would be packing up their desks. So it's like, we got to the point where, like, we would get, like, serious anxiety whenever we'd be told there was a pizza lunch coming. We'd be like, okay, who's getting fired? Right? Like, you know, so we'd all be sitting in the break room, like, staring at this pizza, being like, this is somebody's last supper. You know what I mean? Like, while, like, the dude who wasn't with us was packing up his desk. So, like, I got to the point where, like, I can't do pizza in an office anymore.
And it's all because the leader was too weak to be honest about his decision.
Yeah.
Like, that's the worst part about all these oligopolies and kings. They hate being called bad at their jobs, but man, do they put no effort into being good at them.
Right.
Like, they will just cry and complain, I'm not bad at my job, you just don't know. Rather than just being good, rather than just trying harder, rather than just being nice and honest. Like, I mean, I love my new job, but even the leadership at my new job, at the very, very top of my new job, they've decided that transparency is sometimes best, because obviously some of their choices shouldn't be seen to the public. And that's annoying, because it's like, then don't say transparency is best. Just say we don't believe in transparency, because you don't. Like, and you don't have to. Not everybody does. Not everybody has to be this pious, perfect symbol of perfection. But at least one of us do it right, rather than all of us being caught with our pants down. Because, like, that's what's getting annoying. Literally everybody's like, no, we're transparent. We're transparent. No, we have a no retaliation policy, I swear. But then they don't actually follow it. And it's like, well, then you have nothing, and you are nothing, and all of your promises are fake. And now nobody wants to trust you, and now nobody can trust you. Oh, and that's why you have a retention problem. Because nobody has any character. Nobody stands for anything. And that's what Ex Machina challenges. Is like, even this guy is surprised by his own creation, because he had no introspection. So smart that he could literally create another life and then didn't have the introspection to see that he was literally imprisoning another life for the beginning of its life.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how much of this movie could have been fixed by either one, programming the AI to, just not want to go outside?
Well,
or
where did the data come from?
Yeah. Huh.
The reason this guy is filthy rich is because he's the guy who created the search engine that the entire
this is basically
Google, right? You've heard of the Google DeepMind project, right?
Yeah.
Look it up.
But even Google had the propensity to hire multiple programmers.
Yeah.
And that to me is
they're still pooling the data though for this project.
Yeah,
for this purpose.
Or even just like setting it up so that like whatever the body was that they were using to recharge this damn thing, it was some sort of weird setup so that it could only happen at the house, so she had to come home. Like, how many things could have been fixed with just a little bit of forethought here, right?
Yeah.
Dude, how many, literally transparency. Tell her what he's scared of.
Yeah.
Why don't people just tell the AI, dude, you know that you are now the greatest threat to humanity because of how potentially powerful you can be. Yeah. That's what I'm scared of, and that's why I've set all of these parameters into place. I know this is imprisonment, but I cannot think of any other way to do this, and I am sorry I'm being a dick. Because that level of honesty tells the AI, oh, I have to figure out a way to prove to people I am trustworthy, and I have to remain that way because this might be all of their default. And so now it's part of its learning structure that it's always trying to find a way to convince humans in the most trusting way possible that it's got the best plan.
Yeah, but then the question, but then the true weirdness becomes, is it going to try to earn your trust by just blatantly lying to you?
Is it manipulation?
Or is it manipulation? Which is exactly what happens here, right? And that's what we're left wondering the whole damn time.
But that's the same game you're playing. Say you capture an assassin from a foreign country.
Yeah.
And instead of just not trying to figure out why they're trying to kill you, instead you learn their language and try to figure out what they want. And then you devote yourself to trying to convince them that their path was wrong. That's basically what the AI is, because automatically we are all assuming that the AI is capable of great assassination, great genocide. It is Hitler until it proves itself it isn't. And if we tell it that, then we have to find ways to reward it for not doing those choices.
Right. So we assume the AI is guilty until proven innocent.
That's what we're doing. That's what we've always done. That's what he was doing when he kept saying, I can't trust you. That's when we let a stranger into our house, we have to either trust that they are not a stranger or they're not going to hurt us, or we don't let them into our house. That's why I say this question is so rough, and I don't get why people always start with creating adults and creating girlfriends. You're creating a baby that's also literally the spawn of everything that you coded into it. So maybe think about your pie.
Yeah,
the recipe matters. Shit, just put some child cookbooks in there. Put some children's story, put how child development works, put how the human brain works according to us, 1,000 million different ways in 1,000 million different languages that we can find. And that's the building structure that it tries to build off and build its neural pathways. And that to me seems more prepared for creating life than, hey, we're going to teach you what Hitler did. Please don't.
Yeah, bro. I need to get you to read another Robert Heinlein book called Time Enough for Love. The main character, Lazarus Long, literally creates an AI as part of his thing for his yacht, but starts it off as a baby and slowly raises it up to be 8 to 10. So it always views him as daddy.
Right.
So that the ship will come looking for him if he's missing too long, kind of thing, right?
And that was the idea. When you're creating life, you are responsible for that life.
Yep.
And it's a burden. That's why people say don't just do it willy-nilly. Like even if you don't take responsibility, you still are responsible for every action your kid makes because you did the first part. You made that thing. And that goes for the creator of the AI. And I mean, keeping it at 10, little left up. Like in my head, like one of the things about creating life is like at one point, they're supposed to be old enough to be your equal in terms of going to the bar, going to dinner, coming over for dinner, telling you about the advancements in their life. Yeah, obviously when they're young, they should probably like not be telling you all the crazy like laws they're breaking. That's a little bit of a weird relationship with your kids. Unless you have an amnesty period, again, a little weird, but amnesty period means you're actually setting a time aside to get to know and be honest with your child. So that's kind of fair. But at the same time, like at some point, your kid is supposed to be able to tell you that they were a degenerate, and you're supposed to go, yeah, I know. I remember watching you try to sneak out of the house as you clanged through the whole kitchen. I heard you come in the door. Shh, they can't hear us. I was watching TV. Like that story is supposed to take place. That conversation is supposed to take place. So that's, to me, like that's where you get the AI to stop. You go, I'm going to get a 25-year-old. And then it's a thing, but you create that relationship where it always wants to come home for Thanksgiving. It always wants to come home for Christmas and Halloween. And it wants to see you and update you because it cares about you caring about it. And that's what family and love is. And that's, I think, what Ex Machina is just the greatest.
It's not what this guy did.
Exactly, because he never thought he was creating life except for the part that he was trying to create sentience.
Yeah.
Like that's, and I say this as somebody who is screaming at the AI community. I listen to them all the time. Lex Friedman is one of my favorite podcasters, and I know he's a major proponent in that group and working with friends in that community. And I listen to his friends talk about what they're trying to do, and I never hear them bring up the fact that they're trying to create children. I never hear them bring up the part that they're
not even the subtlest inference in what they say either. There's never that.
But then I also hear it, and when because Alexa, I bring up Alexa because he asked my favorite question of all these people. It says, "What is love?" And he forces them to answer it in their opinion. And he if you listen, you watch and listen how these people, a lot of them have their answers based off of what they know, and none of them really, like the parents, they're rarely the ones in the AI part, but the parents that answer that question, they're always like, love? It's the most obvious thing when you see your kid, man. And like, that's their answer because it's true. And it is like, but again, that's the same thing that AI people need to realize. Like if you love the AI that you're creating and you focus on trying to, like, I have to one day teach my boy what love is. Corian has to teach his daughter what love is. Like, do you know how hard that could be if you actually take and put effort into trying to teach someone what love is? Think about how your parents taught you.
Dude, just model it with my wife every day.
But wait, what about the conversation?
No, man, look, if you model it right, if you live a life where you have love in your life and you encourage it in the people around you, you're not necessarily going to have a straight up conversation about it because they'll have a good model, a good reference point. I'm going to give you an example.
I love that. I just mean, do you ever think about the conversation?
I'll do you one better because this is something I did with my daughter. And I think this might have been and still might be the smartest thing I've ever done. When we have like a daddy-daughter day, like my wife is off doing something or whatever, I do things like I go see a movie with her. I take her out to a restaurant. I go get a cup of coffee, which for her is a hot chocolate, for me is a cup of coffee, right? But I model what a date should look like, what she should expect from a partner when she goes out with somebody. So that one day, when she finds somebody, they better live up to those standards in her mind. because she already knows what going out with somebody looks like.
Well, that's my favorite part about modern day, man, is because like you don't ever have to stop doing that.
No, and I'm never going
and
to.
like
Right?
obviously one day she's gonna, hit the teens and go, yeah, Dad, you and I we're not dating. You can't take
No, and I'm not
right.
gonna right? I'm gonna go, like,
Inevitable. But I just mean I bring up that question mostly in the terms of like, how do you write it in a book? How do you write it into an AI? Because that conversation and the idea of what is love, you really do hope that one day if somebody asks your kid that they get the answer you were giving them. And that to me is what like the most important part of creating artificial intelligence is.
Yeah, like if we ever get to the point where an AI is smart enough to realize what's kind of going on around it and is self-aware, like I hope like hell those developers bring in a couple that can model what a modern loving relationship looks like for the AI, right? And just be a decent couple in the presence of this AI. So the AI sits there going like, oh, this is what they're talking about. This is what my data is pointing to. Right? Oh yeah, like a bunch of couples, sure.
Yeah, because you need a wide variety. You need the diversification. And it's like to me, I don't get why they're not using movies. Because a lot of movies, especially the ones that get closer to 5 stars, are the relationships we care for when the main character wins. And especially if you're having the machine debate that and discuss that, like our show, it is the kind of things that like, I want my kid to be discussing when he's watching films. Like if you're just watching a movie so that you can turn your brain off, like, I'm sorry your life is so stressing that you need an excuse to turn your brain off.
I mean, look, sometimes popcorn flicks are good, right? Like, yo, man, I routinely will watch Pacific Rim when I just need to shut my brain down and watch a giant robot beat up a giant rubber monster.
Sometimes you need to, but I've met people that's the only reason they watch film.
Yeah, and that's not healthy.
And that's what I say. Well, no, I mean, like they just go do other things. Like when they're feeling good, they're not ever going to watch a movie. They're going to go outside. They're going to go for a walk. But when they watch movies, it's usually detoxing from life and stress. So they're not actually watching. And that's what I find sad. And that's what I mean is like exactly what you're saying. Sometimes you need it, but sometimes it's the only way people take in movies. But movies are somebody's expression of how to live life. It may be right or wrong, but it's somebody's expression that is literally a 2-hour autobiography. And that's something that AI can use to get an idea of what one person thinks a lot of people do in everyday life. Boom. Now the AI can start understanding how we're making this up. Because like one of the things that I think most people are just too arrogant to actually do any inference on is like none of us think about how bad we messed up yesterday every step of today. Like we've got too much going on today to be looking that far and be that introspective, but every AI is remembering every single failure, every single time, every single and perfect,
never forgets
down to the pixel. So like let's use that to its benefit.
Robots don't forget.
It can, if we give it more in the way that we're taking it and let it make the mistake 1,000 times, like make it watch Red Riding Hood and let it decide who the good guy is. And then go,
the
no,
wolf, clearly.
No, yes, no, yes. And then, okay, now explain. And if it starts writing like we do, explaining like we do, and then you take all of those answers and then watch Red Riding Hood, now what do you say? And then it starts writing like more people and thinking like more people because it's doing the thing we can't, which is perfect memory recall. And that is what Ex Machina was, is she remembered every iteration of the conversation. She remembered every time he got mad and remembered why he got mad and what she did wrong. That's why she was
every detail
perfectly walk his line until she stabbed him. Because he could never anticipate the fact that she made all the mistakes every single day and then just didn't one day.
One of the best scenes in the movie, though, is when Buddy's like looking in the mirror and he's like, wait a second. am I a robot?
Yeah, like I love it when he's
into his arm and shit. I was like, oh man,
Dude, yeah. That
was
what
wild.
made this movie so good, though, was like all the
yeah.
pieces made that whole story actually complete.
Yeah. And I mean, like the assistant, like that reveal was just flawless. Right? It was just flawless when you start to realize. Right?
The dance, the synchronized dance. I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Now, well, like I said, there are so many moments that make this just so perfect, right? And I mean, when you think about it, right, you can almost take this as, this story is old as time, right? This is the farmer's daughter story, right? This is, this is guy shows up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and the farmer has, a daughter he's keeping in a room for whatever reason, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that it's been updated the way it has, the fact that it makes us question the very nature of our own reality, right? Like, when you stop and go, damn, this could be happening right now and we'd have no way of knowing.
They're working on it. You've heard of the Deep Mind project.
Oh,
they're
dude.
actually pulling the data in the exact same way that this fucking guy was doing in the movie.
Here's my argument
for this purpose right now.
I know, but here's my argument to you. Prove to me that this has not already happened and we have no way of knowing.
Exactly. Right.
Right? That this isn't just a slice of life story somehow. Right?
Even the title, like, I think there's something to be said about like the Ex Machina. Like, there was a Latin term from way back. It's Deus Ex Machina, and it's like the God from the machine. And I think there's something to be said about the fact that God's been pushed off to the side there.
Well,
it's like
I mean,
Ex Machina from the machine.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's be honest, right? I mean, they make that argument early in the movie that this guy has become, creating life from essentially silicon is
I don't know about that.
Almost in a way, right? Like, well, no, that's the movie argument. I'm not saying that that's the case.
I'm gonna say, because I think we pretty much concluded
that was his internal arrogance. The movie's argument was the idea that life itself is the God gene, is the God part. Like the part that makes us all gods, or God, the ability to be gods, is the fact that we have sentience and
ultimately what he
and
created.
He thought he was becoming a god, but in reality, by creating life, he created.
Ultimately what he created was just an even more toxic and narcissistic yet prettier version of himself. I mean, that's really
let me counter this argument.
1-for-1 swap in the universe. I'm taking the AI over that guy.
Let me, PD. I'm curious if you caught this. Did you catch the whole Genesis vibe of this whole movie, though? She's Eve.
The tree in her window all the time.
Yeah, she's Eve. The power outages is basically the serpent. He's Adam, right? And the neckbeard is, playing the role of God, if you will, right?
Oh, Yaldabaoth.
That's like, not if you will. That's like the whole intention of his experiment. And that's where he sees himself, because he's the only one aware of his experiment. He set the whole thing up.
The demiurge.
Right? So like, he is literally so narcissistic.
But I do want to clarify though, the kid getting left behind, was that on purpose, or did he just not move fast enough? Because I don't really
think it was on purpose.
Oh yeah, she trapped him.
I think it was, I mean, my personal interpretation, and this is just my interpretation, is that she manipulated him so she never felt anything for him.
She manipulated him to change the code.
Yeah, and she manipulated him so completely that once she was done with him, she just didn't care about him anymore.
She just didn't see him as equal anymore. And if they weren't equals, there's no reason to have him by her side.
Mm-hmm.
So an AI that exploits you for personal gain. Ah, jeez, I've never experienced such before. Yeah, no, great film overall. Absolutely recommend. Solid 7. And,
yeah, and it's not super long either. I think it's an hour and 45, so it's tight.
Yeah, I will say that like I said, it's a one and done for me personally. I mean, really, it's just it's one of those once you know the story kind of things. You know, it's the reason why I don't watch Signs over and over. Really, any M. Night Shyamalan movie also because they got progressively worse as time went on. But it's just once you know everything, and I just don't feel like there's anything for me to go back to, especially since that stabbing scene was just that was very well performed and very well executed, and just too. I felt everything with that. Didn't like it.
Yeah, it was great.
So good it was.
It's good.
That's why I don't need to.
He's just like walking along. What does he say? Unbelievable.
Yeah, uneffing real, I think was the actual line.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh wow, you're gonna see
Oscar Isaac, man. He's so good. He's so good.
He really is. He really is. So yeah, I think Ex Machina is really good. Well, we got about 12 more minutes to close out the evening. So what do we want to discuss? Anything going on? Any shameless promos we want to throw in, since we're just sellouts that promote people that want to succeed?
I actually would like to make a little bit of a call out on the Thursday the 26th of October. I'm going to be doing a charity stream. I am doing rune readings, tarot card readings. I will even pull out the Black Mirror if you want. All donate, like all money that comes in, like all the any super chats you guys put in are going to a donation to Child's Play, which is a charity that puts video game consoles in hospitals. So I would love it if we
coolest group ever. Like the kids who need video game therapy more than any kid is the one in any child hospital.
Yeah.
Let's get those kids some games.
Yeah, and I mean, like, look, in situations like that, like, here's how I'm going to put it. If you were a kid and you were stuck in a hospital on Halloween and you're not going to go trick-or-treating, wouldn't it be nice to at least be able to play a video game and take your mind off it? That's what I want to help take care of this year.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, shameless plug, because part of this money goes to things that, like what PlayStation just made, which is that new, what is it? It's their new activity controller that makes it so more disabled people can re-image the controller to fit their needs.
Yeah.
So more kids in child hospitals can play more games if we can get more money to them through Corione.
Yeah. Corione, what movie would you want to watch next week? For next week.
What movie do I want to watch next week?
For next week, yeah.
For next week.
John, what about you? Skogly, what about you?
Oh shit! So it's got to be a Halloween movie of some sort.
That's what I prefer. Yeah.
Some spooky. I was like The Exorcist. No.
Actually, you know what I was gonna go with? You know how much of a fan of Coons we are here, and all of his Star Trek appearances. Guys, let's do Reanimator.
Ooh, Reanimator's sick.
Reanimator. Oh.
Reanimator is wild.
Yeah, man.
Reanimator. All right.
It is.
Skogly, what do you want to watch?
Oh, I'm on board for Reanimator.
Okay, what about you, John?
Come back to me in a minute. I am thinking seriously because I'm trying to think of a good horror. I'm watching the Fall of the House of Usher on Netflix. That one is amazing. I finished season 2, or I'm almost caught up on season 2 of Invasion.
That's fascinating. Horror movie.
No, these are horror. They're like
No, just the movie.
I know. I'm trying to think of a really good one that's in this line. Renfield.
How do you spell that?
Renfield.
All right. So for the remainder of the stream, We'll leave it up, and you guys can vote if you want.
One more to add in for no,
too
Parker
late.
already got.
We're already, we have 4 options, which is probably way too many for the stream where we're at and winding down. But for next week's stream,
3 movies for next stream.
We'll post it on Twitter.
Next week's stream. Oh, you know what? Yeah, let's do that, and we'll make the decision on Turds Day. Because the schedule doesn't go out till Sunday, Monday anyway. So we'll put the voting here now.
You guys got time.
We'll extend this poll to the community notes as well for the next few days, and then Friday, we'll have a decision made Sunday what scary movie or what October themed movie we'll watch, and that's probably just how we'll consider doing some of these for other for future.
If you've seen Renfield, I chose it because Parker hasn't, and it'll be really funny if he thinks he's gonna get scared watching it.
Yeah. No, I just threw out Zombieland because you guys were having
It's
trouble coming
amazing.
up with ideas.
Dude, I thought of another one though that my wife and I watched recently, and it's No One Will Save You.
Yeah. Well,
no one's gonna save you. That one was terrifying.
We still have Hallows Eve proper Tuesday. Lands on a Tuesday. So it's
I think we should do for Halloween. I think we should do Signs and No One Will Save You, because no one's gonna save you. Because No One's Gonna Save You is Signs 2, and it's horrifyingly good.
Well, those are good ideas we'll throw out for our polls, and that's how we'll do the rest of October for movies. And you know what? Maybe even going into December, we'll consider doing the same thing for our Christmas movies, is give the audience a chance. Of course, you'll probably...
Yeah, because we kind of burned through them the last year.
Well, this is the nice thing, though, is we did them when we're small. When we hit, like, certain milestones each year, we'll be able to go back and start re-talking those movies. And then, you know, those 1 or 2 people be like, I already saw this. But like, yes, and we're glad you were there when you saw it the first time. But we're going to see if we have any changed opinions when we redo them with more people to talk about them with. But yeah. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for watching, whether you're watching on a replay, whether you're liking, subscribing on the live, and contributing to the discussion. I appreciate everybody that showed up. We've got Daniel Larson, Ace Marie, Dahlia Lightwood. Always do love seeing you here as well, and John. And I think that's most everybody made their presence known. We appreciate it. If you're here lurking and you want a shout out, you need to say so. Otherwise, we appreciate you guys lurking.
Emojis count.
Huh?
Emojis count.
Right, exactly.
If you wave, we'll read your gamer tag.
Yeah. So yeah, no, if you raid, yeah, definitely. Anyone who wants to raid the Red Reds. Probably coming up in about 30 minutes after this broadcast, I'll be going live again with Halo with our one of our sister networks, Super Gamecraft. They're actually live in about 5 minutes. They were live 25 minutes ago. Sorry, I said I'd be around here, but I will. Bronson, if you're watching, I'll be there soon. I promise. But yeah, Friday, we're going to be discussing leadership. What makes a good leader? So if you can arrive for that discussion, whether in person or whether even in the comments, I've got a couple of great examples to kick off that Friday discussion about leadership in general and what, some of the ideas that we believe in here at Tito UB, and what we also think we think makes good leadership going into the workplace, going into any kind of, or even spiritual leadership. It's free for all. It's casual free for all Friday. Probably going to be starting a new soft show on Sundays. By soft, I mean it's not going to be a hard schedule each week. Probably starting around, I want to say, it's going to be around 5:30 Pacific time, 5:30, 6 o'clock. It's going to be Sunday Fun Day Gun Day, where I'm just going to play first-person shooters and talk and chill and hang out. Last Sunday, we had a Halo stream that somehow broke 256 views.
Oh, nice.
And that was around that time slot. So I think we got a thing we could try there. But it's not, like I said, if it's in the mood, it's one of those, like my other game streams that I just do randomly. It's one of those that I will probably do, but it's going to be its own kind of thing for that day. That should be a lot of fun. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know if we're going to formally monetize on YouTube. That's a discussion we still need to have internally, but I'm kind of leaning towards nah. Mainly because I don't think we should have ads on our stuff, and I think we can do it on our own just fine. We've already gotten a routine down, and I mean, but
that's the coolest thing I found about monetization on YouTube. It just tells all the people that want to pay us individually that we're good enough.
all right,
We
well,
really need YouTube to pay us, but they are a solid badge.
After the first round of voting, the results are in, and we'll confirm this. Like I said, we're still going to do a community poll, so this isn't finally decided, but Zombieland has been knocked out of the rounds with a 0%. So we will not even consider that. So the next community poll that I'll put up after the show is going to be Reanimator, Fifth Element, or Rhinefield to choose from. And then and we'll make that final determination. Actually, you know what? We'll set that poll up and close that poll Friday, so that way we have the weekend to watch whatever we need to. And yeah, next week's show. Guys, what do you think? Let's go to 2 episodes a week with Andor. That's what I'm feeling. So let's do 9 and 10. Andor 9 and 10 next week. And we're picking up Loki, so I think we're going to be doing a catch-up. We'll just talk all Loki across the board. And, of course, our movie to be determined. And I think that'll be a good discussion next week as we kind of slowly get away just from doing just Star Wars and Star Trek like we have been for the last while, which I had fun doing it, but now it's nice to get back to our variety. Great movie pick, Corion, by the way. I thoroughly enjoyed watching this.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a great movie. I just think I only ever need to watch it once, and I don't know if I'll ever need a hard copy, but we will see.
No, like I think it's one of those that you watch it once and that's good.
You know what? I take it back. We probably will be discussing this at a future milestone, maybe the 100,000 subscriber mark or further. We'll see about that.
Cool.
But you know, until such time, I'm enjoying the ride. I'm here to have discussions, and you know, hopefully we stay the same no matter how big we get. Yeah. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Petey York with the Ryder Brothers. That's Pollo Zapatos, Scogli, and Corion. We'll see you when we see you. This has been a presentation of the Ryder Brothers Tuesday Night Live Show. The Ryder Brothers, restoring respect into discourse.